A new campaign to bring STEAM education to children who are often left behind. That's our Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. Joining us from beanz, B-E-A-N-Z, is publisher and executive director of Kids Code and Computer Science, Tim Slavin. Hi, Tim.
Hi, how are you?
Terrific.
Thank you for having me.
A pleasure. So congratulations on the work that you're doing with beanz, an award-winning online and print magazine that explores computer science and more in a way that kids can understand. And you've been around now for, what, over a decade?
Our August issue coming up will be our 10th year, 60 plus issues.
Just terrific.
Yeah. So what we do is it's called STEM or STEAM. It's science, technology, engineering, art, and math. The art is really important to me personally, so we make sure that that gets in there. But being a kids magazine, it's a lot of fun. It's quirky, it's entertaining, but it's also serious content. And this week we launched a campaign to expand our work donating the magazine to at-risk communities. So in the past, we've donated through magliteracy.org, which distributes to homeless shelters, battered women's shelters, food banks around the United States, and I understand in places like Africa and Canada and so forth now. And so we want to expand that effort. Every issue we give them new boxes and boxes, and I delivered 5,000 copies to them about a year ago of back issues. And we want to expand that through this campaign that we started this week, where people can donate to help us afford to continue and expand our efforts. If people want to contribute, the URL is kidscodecs.org/donate. And you can find the magazine at that URL as well. And we're also accepting, obviously, applications from groups that want to become recipients. And that email is hello@kidscodecs.org.
What a terrific effort, Tim. So tell us, during the pandemic, we saw some of the effects of the, quote, digital divide that we've kind of heard about it before, but that brought it home, I guess, when kids had to do a lot of their learning from home via computer, and many were not equipped to really be able to do that.
Right.
And I guess that some of the children that you're talking about from homeless shelters or battered women's shelters, I mean, they are really left behind, right?
Yeah. Well, the way it happened, and it was really interesting because it was, there really was positives and negatives. We live near New York City, and a lot of kids got computers and laptops who probably would not have gotten them otherwise. And that was simply because they had to learn at home. And while that was an imperfect method of teaching, it was an opportunity for them and for the city of New York to figure out how to get kids connected to the internet, to educational resources, things like that. So we get such a positive response from the content we have from paid subscribers that we also get requests for content and for copies. And Mag Literacy is a group that, I don't know if people still have print magazines lying around their house, but if you've ever tried to recycle them, it's almost impossible. And Mag Literacy takes those magazines and then they distribute them out to these organizations, the battered women's shelters and food banks and so forth. And they were getting requests for kids because kids were showing up along with their moms and dads and so forth. And so the guy who runs it, John, emailed me asking if I could donate. And I said, oh boy, I have 5,000 copies in the basement. I'll drive right over. So my son, who's also our technical editor, he basically tests all the code. He has a programming degree. he and I took a road trip for a couple of days to Ohio, where we dropped off, I want to say 50, 60 boxes going back of issues and things like that. And he was all excited. And then I, basically said, how about we just put you in for a couple boxes every time we publish? And it was only recently when we were doing grant proposals that I realized that we donate about 15% of our print runs. We just hand them out because over the years, groups have come up to us and asked, hey, we don't have funds, but we do have kids in a coding club or things like that.
Just terrific. And we should point out there's no advertising, is there?
Right. And this is for me, this is interesting. I have no publishing background. My background is in technical writing and poetry and things like that. And someone explained to me early on, she published a kids magazine about food and cooking. And she explained to me that kid magazines can't carry advertising if you want to be schools and libraries to subscribe, that for whatever reason, that's considered a no-no. It makes it more difficult for those organizations to subscribe.
Interesting. So tell us, how did beanz come about? I mean, you said technical writing and poetry, and those two things don't necessarily gel in my mind. But but
every word counts in poetry, and you have to think about that. And a lot of what our articles, I edit some of the articles. The more difficult writers, I'll edit first before a copy editor, because I don't want to make her too crazy. But with the technical stuff. But the magazine came about, oddly enough, because with my kids, K through 5, I was parent teaching, so art and science. So, and I was literally the only dad at the time who was able to make the time to be in the classroom. But I wanted to see my kids and what they were doing. And it occurred to me, given my background, what I was doing. I've also have a programming background, and I've worked in software development environments for several decades. I had the idea of teaching coding in the classroom the way you teach art, parents coming in and so forth. And eventually that evolved into the idea that I realized that there's a lot of things that I see in a software development environment, like rubber ducks on people's desks, that are odd but interesting and actually useful. So I wanted to write about that. But being a kind of stubborn and obnoxious a little bit at times, I don't like editors. I've gotten used to it with the magazine, but at the time when I started, I just wanted to write these articles about really weird things like the uncanny valley and pair programming and rubber duck debugging and all this kind of stuff. And that just evolved into a full-blown magazine. And we've picked, we have about 15 people so far, most of them writers, and a lot of them are teachers who use writing articles as a way to understand what they're doing in the classroom. So it's turned into this really wonderful, positive experience.
And one of your goals, I guess, is to, obviously you're educating kids, but at the same time you want them to have fun, see that side of it, so that it retains their interest, right?
Right. Well, and the key to that is Kelly, our magazine designer, who came to us from Highlights. She was a graphic design person there. And Highlights had a conference for a few years where they invited people like me, independent kid publishers. And for a weekend, we just got together and talked about common problems. And so I got talking with the editor, I believe, and I said, hey, I need a graphic designer. Do you know somebody? She connected me to Kelly. And Kelly has this really wicked sense of humor. So we had an article about robotic surgery. And I don't know if you remember Robbie Robot from Lost in Space. So she found a picture of Robbie, and she had Robbie asking for a milkshake instead of, doing surgery, that kind of thing. So, and the little birds and the characters and things like that. It's talking back at the reader and trying to explain what's going on with what they're about to read. It's fun.
Tell us again how families and kids can get the magazine, and then we'll talk about that donation effort again too.
Sure. Well, you can find us online at kidscodecs.org or kidscodecs.com. And the .com is the magazine where we have about 1,100 articles for subscribers. Oddly enough, most print subscribers don't become online subscribers for some reason. Kids actually seem to really enjoy getting something in the mailbox with their name on it. And we hear all the time of kids just taking the magazine and disappearing to their room or a sofa, someplace like that. And then so what we're doing with our campaign is donating additional copies. And the way to help us with that would be kidscodecs.org/donate. And of course, if you're a school or an organization and you want to apply to receive copies, that's just an email. Send it to us at hello@kidscodecs.org.
Is there an age range that you target?
Yeah, that's a great question because we get that. The age typically is 8 to 12 plus. However, what I find extremely interesting early on is that parents and relatives know as much as a 5-year-old. So a lot of parents subscribe to learn alongside their kids, and it's a shared experience back and forth. There was one subscriber in Los Altos who said every time the issue came in, he sat down with his 3 sons and they worked through the magazine doing the projects and things. So it's really literally every age. If you don't know anything and you have a kid as an excuse, it's a good way to learn.
Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and
Thank you.
Congratulations on the work that you're doing there. Tim Slavin, thanks for spending time with us.
Thank you, and I appreciate your time.